All right, they finally did it. After 10 years, they finally made an updated RX1R, and this is the Mark III. And I know this camera will make a lot of people happy, and it's gonna make a lot of people confused and some even mad. So let's get into it. I just got my hands on with it today, and I only had one day to shoot with it because a bunch of factors outside of my control, but we can still talk about it with my overall experience because I went into the city today and shot with it all day. I did street photography. I did some portraits with Sarah. I met up with her. I only had the one battery, so I shot with it till it was dead. I tried to squeeze everything I could into that shoot that I could think of so that I can judge this camera for all that it is. Now, first off, this thing's tiny. And I know that a lot of people that got this early on this week that made videos said that, but this camera is seriously small for what it's packing. It's got a 61 megapixel full frame sensor in it. All the processing AI stuff is in it. Smaller than a Fuji X100VI, other than that the lens sticks out a little further. So obviously this camera isn't really pocketable, even though it's a lot smaller, but it's more discreet when you're out shooting with it compared to like other full frame cameras from Sony, which kind of makes it perfect for travel and street photography. So the autofocus surprised me, and not really in an impressed way. It's obviously responsive. It's got Sony's AI dedicated processor in it, so it's got real-time eye autofocus, pose estimation, subject detection, plane, train, car, bird, animal, bug. But I noticed that this lens moves a lot slower than what I'm used to from Sony, and that's because they use the same Zeiss Sony RX1RIII f2, which I think is from the previous version. So it's definitely showing its age, because that's like 10 years ago. It's not horrible, it's just not what I'm used to from Sony. And when I noticed when I was shooting portraits, sometimes it would miss her eye, it would jump to her face, sometimes it wouldn't see the face and it would jump to the body. We were in some contrasty areas where I noticed it was losing the eye, but typically in like my Sony A1 Mark II, it would be locked onto the eye no matter what. When it comes to like street and objects, it performed awesome, no issues there. It's good point to point. And it's pretty crazy what they have in this little guy. So let's jump into the specs. So this camera, as I mentioned, has a 61 megapixel full frame sensor. It's the same one found in the A7R5. It's got the Zeiss Sony RX1RIII f2 fixed lens. It's got real-time autofocus, AI dedicated processor for subject detection. It can do 5 frames per second burst shooting. It's got a leaf shutter that goes up to 1/4000th of a second mechanical. And it can do up to 1/8000th electronic. But there is a caveat, and I'll talk about that later. It's got a 2.36 million dot EVF. It's got a 3-inch, 2.6-inch million dot touchscreen. It's got 4K up to 30 frames per second, 10-bit 422, S-Cinetone, S-Log. When it comes to I/O, it's got USB-C for charging as well as data transfer, micro HDMI, a 3.5mm mic jack. Now this does have a new battery in it, but it's an older battery found in the A6000 line of cameras previous to the A6700. It's the WF50 battery, and this camera is only 1 pound or 454 grams. And one of the standout features to me is that leaf shutter. It's super quiet. You could sync flash up to 1/2000th of a second if you want to shoot at f2, which is awesome. If you want to throw one of those little small portable flashes on the hot shoe, you can do that. Or you can put a trigger on it and do off-camera flash if you want to do that as well. But yeah, if you want to shoot wide open, you're capped at 1/2000th of a second until you stop down to f5.6. Then you get up to 1/4000th of a second. That's just kind of the weird quirks of this camera you're gonna have to learn. Now I did shoot a bunch of stuff with the electronic shutter so I could get higher shutter speeds because I was trying to shoot wide open in harsh sun. But I didn't realize how much rolling shutter this sensor has, and it ruined a lot of shots, so I'd probably stay away from using electronic shutter as long as you're not shooting anything that's not moving. Now one cool thing Sony did add to this camera is the creative looks. They've always had creative looks, but they do have some new ones now that are called film looks, and I did shoot with some of those in this video. Now typically I'd be shooting raw files and editing those, but I did shoot JPEG for this specifically. Anyway, the one I really liked was the FL look, so I shot most of it with that, and then I shot some black and white stuff. The shots you're seeing are unedited JPEG, so you can kind of get an idea what that looks like. But it's kind of cool what you can do. You can mess around with some of the presets and settings in there, kind of like you can with a Fuji recipe. Now, I would say they're not on par with what Fuji has with their film simulations and recipes, but it's cool to see Sony moving in this direction because we've kind of been asking for this for a long time, and it's nice they're starting to put it in the cameras. Now this is pretty cool. The lens does have a switch on to let you switch into kind of like a macro or more of a minimum focus distance for the autofocus. And that way when you're set to 0.3 to infinity, it actually focuses faster because it doesn't have to go from the minimum all the way to infinity. And that's gonna help with a little bit of focus speed and get you a little closer. Now when it comes to video on this camera, it's not crazy. I don't think you're gonna be buying this camera for video, but you can shoot 4K up to 30 frames per second, 10-bit 422 in S-Log. It's not really designed to be a hybrid workhorse. It's more of a street style camera. You can obviously use it for video. It's capable enough. And the autofocus is decent. I did a couple of tests here so you can see how the lens handles me moving towards the camera and away from the camera. Although it's not super fast, I didn't notice any weird pulsing or anything like that. It was doing what it's supposed to. I just think I'm spoiled with Sony's modern autofocus motors and their new lenses. This does not have that. So this is kind of an older generation lens. And you know what? Let me just switch over right now from this camera to that. I'm shooting on the Lumix S1 II. But I'll switch over to this so you can see what this looks like in a talking head situation for the rest of this video. All right, we're switched over. This is the RX1R Mark III. This is what the video quality looks like. And I'm just gonna talk throughout the rest of this video using this camera because it looks pretty good. I got an external monitor on it because we don't have any flip out screen, so I can't see unless I have a monitor on it, but you can see how that looks. It's tracking me. I am at f2.5. I can't really shoot wide open because of the lighting situation. Anyway, I've kind of been all over the place in this video. Sorry about that. But I honestly love this camera, but I also don't love it at the same time. Like, I love how discreet the camera is. I love how small it is. I love the sensor in this lens combo. It's really awesome to work with. And I wasn't even sure if the lens could hold up to 61 megapixels, but it's actually pretty sharp, especially when you stop down to f4. Even f2.8 is not that bad, but f2 is a little soft, and that's so not Sony. Like, they're always so clinically mega razor sharp, and it's kind of unique and different that they kept this older lens in this camera. It's got some nice character to it. I think a lot of people will love shooting with it. Like, it's obviously got some chromatic aberrations, something you'd expect with an older lens, but that's what we call character, and this lens has some nice character to it. One cool thing though, they add this option to do a crop mode, and I mapped that to the trash can button, so you can jump to 50 millimeters at 29 megapixels raw, or 70 millimeters at 15 megapixels raw, and that's super useful because this is a fixed lens camera. You get kind of 3 focal lengths out of it. But there's a whole list of things that I don't love about this camera, and first off is the battery life. I think I'm just so used to these bigger batteries, and seeing this thing drop 10% like every 8 to 10 minutes was a little alarming. And I didn't have any extra battery, so I had to shut the camera off any chance I had near the end when it started getting lower. And I was doing a little bit of wireless screen recording via Wi-Fi, so I could show you guys behind the scenes there. So that might have dropped it a little bit, but I was only doing it intermittently. But this is a huge improvement over the previous slim, tiny battery that they use in like the ZV-1 series. So maybe it's not that bad. I'm just not used to this. And obviously these batteries are cheap, so if you need to buy a bunch, you can get a bunch of batteries. Now, this is gonna be a little subjective. Some of the buttons and dials feel a little cheap, at least the back buttons. And for a $5,100 camera, oh, by the way, this is a $5,100 camera, I forgot to mention that. It doesn't really quite match the build quality you'd expect from this price. Obviously it's a solid magnesium alloy camera, but maybe because it's so light and small, it doesn't really feel premium and expensive. Not like holding onto a brass Leica. And again, that's just subjective. Someone that shoots with it might think it feels awesome. But when it comes to the on and off switch, that's where this camera is awesome. The chunky on and off switch is probably the best I've felt in any Sony camera. And it's also cool that the shutter button is like a silver metal threaded shutter button. So that looks really cool on here. Obviously this camera has no tilt screen. It's got no ibis. Personally, I don't care too much about the ibis because it's a photo first camera. And I'm also not the person that's shooting with shutter speeds under 1/100th of a second often. But I know there's people out there that cannot take one photo unless their camera has ibis, and they'll make sure they say that in the comments. Now, when it comes to video, I feel like that matters a little bit more. This camera does have active stabilization though, which is digital. So that will help with smoothing out some of the jitters. But yeah, no ibis, no tilt screen. The lack of tilt screen was kind of annoying at times when I'm trying to shoot from the hip for street photography. You're kind of on a weird angle. And you can be a little bit more discreet when you have a flip out screen and you're looking down like this versus having it up to your eye or holding it up like this. Now, obviously this does keep the camera slimmer, and I assume that's why they did it, but it's a little unfortunate because the RX1R Mark II did have a tilt screen. Now, Sony released 3 accessories for this camera right out the gate. You got the thumb grip, it's around $300. Then you've got the body case, and that's around $250. Then of course there's the lens hood, and somehow this lens hood is $200, but I'm sure you'll find third-party lens hoods for cheaper eventually when they come out. All right, so let's talk about that price again. $5,100 US is a lot. And if you have that kind of money, you're kind of in the Leica Q3 territory. And yeah, for that price, my expectations are kind of high. Obviously spec-wise, Sony's delivering the best tech you can get in any tiny camera like this. The autofocus is class leading, the sensor is amazing. And I've shot with the A7R5 a bunch of times and the A7CR I used to own. So I've got a lot of experience with this sensor. The dynamic range is awesome. The detail is amazing. Low light performance is great. Image quality is not going to be an issue with this camera. It's going to really come down to price. And if we're being practical, there's so many options for a lot less money. Sony, don't hate me, but I think this price is a little wild. And as an example, I feel like it should be priced closer to like an A7CR with a 40mm f2.5 lens. It's gonna give you a nice small camera with kind of a pancake lens. Neither of them are pocketable. And then of course you're gonna get IBIS, better ergonomics, a flip out screen, and you can change the lens. And if you wanted to, you could even get the older Sony Zeiss 35mm f2. Now, if we're talking Fujifilm, you can get a GFX100 RF for 4,900 bucks. And that's getting you a medium format 100 megapixel fixed lens camera. And then obviously there's the Fuji X100VI. You could buy 3 of those, some accessories, and even some lights for the same price. Obviously it's an APS-C sensor, but it's 40 megapixels, which is still a solid amount of resolution. It's got a tilt screen, built-in ND filter for shooting wide open with your limited shutter speeds. Plus it feels premium, and it definitely rivals anything in its class for 1,600 bucks. But there's just one problem. Good luck actually finding one in stock because they're always sold out. And if you go on eBay or Marketplace, those people are selling it for even more than it costs new. So the ultimate question is, who's this camera for? Well, obviously it's for someone with money, someone who wants uncompromised image quality in the smallest form factor possible. And it's priced as a luxury point and shoot camera, so it's definitely for people with money. And while it's not perfect, it's definitely one of the coolest releases this year. And although I'll probably never ever buy one because it's too expensive, I'm still happy Sony made it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are stoked on this, because even I said I wish that Sony would make a modern version of the RX1R with new autofocus and all that stuff. But I guess I'm just a little bit too cheap because I expected it to be like 3,500 to 4,000. Anyway, be positive in the comments. Don't be negative. The people that are negative, we're never gonna buy this camera anyway. But what do you guys think? Are you gonna buy this? Would you get a Leica Q3? Would you get a Sony A7CR with like a small pancake lens? Or are you gonna wait for Fuji to restock the X100VI so you can buy 3 of those instead of this? Anyway, thanks for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, give it a thumbs down twice. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. I'll see you guys in the next one. We are at 18 minutes, no overheating light. And yeah, this is what it looks like. I think it looks pretty good, to be honest. I kind of like this lens. Why does it have to cost so much?